Hi, good morning. I forgot to turn the dehydrator off. Okay, so it's making noise, so let me just try and, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so hey everybody. It's Friday and just getting the little things on here. Okay, so yeah, so we're going to do a couple little things here, and I'm just looking to see if I can see the comments okay. Yeah, it seems to work a little bit better if I say hi first, and then it kind of does the wakes up. Oh my goodness, need a little sip of my chakra tea this morning. Okay, so what we're going to do a little salad with carrots. And hey, Jane, good morning. Hi, Darlene. Hey, Kate. Hi, everybody. It's so nice. Oh, it's Friday already. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. And it cooled down a little bit, too. So, you know, I'm starting to think it's when the weather is cooler is when my throat acts up. But, you know, what are you going to do? There's always something, right? So, yeah, so I've got the carrots here, organic carrots. So I'm not going to peel them. I'm going to just trim them, give them a little trim, and cut any of the not as perfect parts off. And just make a little salad. But what I'm going to do, because the carrots, you know, they're a little bit... like if you just, I don't know, if you have like a raw carrot salad, it's a little bit harder to chew, right? Depends how old you are. Oh my gosh, I hate to say that, but it's so very true, right? And, you know, I used to kind of laugh when my mother-in-law said that she couldn't chew things because of her teeth. And, yeah, well, you know, the older you get, the more they are more fragile, that's for sure. So yeah, so the other good thing that you could do, or that, you know, that you can do, is you can shred them to make them nice and soft, or put them in a smoothie. But in this case, we're just going to steam them just a little bit, just to soften them up a bit. And yeah, they aren't going to look quite as nice. I don't know if you guys can see. But I don't like to really peel them if they're organic, because there's so much benefit in the skins. And so that's one of the things, you know, even with the fermenting, which we did the fermenting of the carrots, you know, you really want that, like the starter for the fermentation is actually the bacteria that's on the vegetables. That's what really helps it to get started. And so you really don't want to be trimming all that stuff off if it's an organic, you know, nice and clean vegetable. So kind of like we've got our peppers here fermenting, and you know, kind of same thing, right? It has a lot to do with the bacteria on the vegetables, the good bacteria, not bad bacteria, the good bacteria on the vegetables that helps to start the fermentation process. And so, you know, we've already gone over so much about the fermenting and how beneficial that is for your immune system, for your, you know, giving you your probiotics, and brain function. You know, the fermentation has so much to do with everything, which is what part of what we're going to do today is we're going to also do some kombucha. So I don't know if you guys are into that, but it is something that's been asked for. And so I'm just looking at equal amounts here. I might do one little small extra carrot. But yeah, so the kombucha is really beneficial. And I think a lot of people have heard of it, like almost everybody's heard of it, but not everybody has... you know, knows how to make it or keeps it up. It's something to keep up. And certainly for myself, my poor little kombucha scobies are in dire need of being fed. So I thought, oh, what a perfect opportunity, because I definitely have neglected them terrible, and you'll see that in a few minutes. And so if you have them neglected, you can know that we can usually save them, you know, unless there's mold or something, then we can't. I was thinking of adding an onion, but you know what, I'm not going to. So I like to always have, you know, as you guys know, hey Barb, hey Kate, hi. Yeah, so as you know, I change my mind as I cook, so it's just always changing as to whatever turns you on. So I put a bunch of stuff on the table, and I'm like, oh well, maybe a little this, maybe a little that, and then we just kind of fly with it. So I have these lovely garden green beans, and so we'll just trim these as the carrots start to soften. And my little spoon here, find my little spoon. Okay, so I've got so many things in such a small space. It's actually pretty funny. Somebody actually, last year, somebody came to visit, a good friend of mine, and she said, so this is where the magic happens in your kitchen. And I had to laugh because it really is, you know, not at all magical and pretty tiny. Anyways, okay, so with the beans, I was going to show you something and I forgot. You guys probably know this already too. Just grab your beans, like to cut the ends off and kind of line them up on the table or the cutting board or whatever, so that they're even on the end, and then you can trim several at once, because I'm all about saving time. And as you guys know, most of my meals are 15-minute. Oh yeah, the ginger kombucha. You know, we'll talk about that. But most of my meals are 15 minutes and super quick, and so I try and create ways of making it quicker and easier so that I can do even more fun and interesting things. So if you take your beans and you just, you know, kind of tap them down a little bit, line them up, then you cut several at once. And so that helps. And sometimes, you know, sometimes you might lose a little more of one, and sometimes you might miss a little of the other, but it does seem to work. And then turn them upside down again and line them up, all their little ends. So cute. So oh my gosh, yeah. So I'm just watching the comments here, okay, about the ginger kombucha. So we will talk about that. Excuse me. And so anyway, so the green beans have, as with most things that we've been cooking lately, vitamin K. I think everything has vitamin K. They also have vitamin A and C, and they have folate. Hey, Monique, how you doing? And Lee, hi. Nice to see you on here. So, yeah, so the green beans have lots of pretty much the same benefits as the peas as well. And I am getting lots of peas, and I'm not really sure what to do with them, so we're going to have to figure that out. Just looking at the comments here. Yeah, so these guys have A and C and potassium and folate and magnesium and everything, and then so do the peas. And I had saved my peas from last year, and they got very confused. They were all confused, all the pea seeds. So I didn't know what was what. Because I was really busy last year, and I just kind of kept all the, you know, dried out peas, and I didn't know which kind of pea they came from. So my peas are all mixed up and very confused, and I have many different types. And see, that looks good. Oh, I missed one. So anyway, I'm trying to figure out what to do with them. Like, you can always shell them and freeze them, and I did do a couple batches like that. But I have the kind of strange ones. I don't know what they are, but they're they're like snap peas that you would stir fry with, right? In a Chinese food or something like that, or an Asian stir fry. But they're really big, and the pods are edible, like super nice and crunchy edible, and the peas are gigantic, and the pods are like this long. So I'm not sure what they are, but I'm gonna just try and think of something interesting to do with them. I was thinking of fermenting them, maybe. I mean, we can always use them in a stir fry for sure, but you know, I always like to experiment with other recipes and ways of doing things. See, these guys are really curly, so they don't want to cooperate at all. And if all else fails, just snap them off with your fingernail. And okay, so these guys. So this is pretty much perfect timing, and that's kind of what you want to do, or at least it's what I want to do. Is get the things, get things going on high heat so that you can do something else to you know, to best utilize that time. So there's our beans, and the carrots are, well, there's a couple here that I didn't that I actually, you know, I should have cut them smaller so that they would cook more evenly. Not too bad. Let's see. They're gonna be fine. Okay, so let's do this. This is not this is not going to be the this is not going to be the prettiest salad. We could make it that, but it's not. It's just going to turn into looking healthy. How's that? Okay, so what we're going to do, this super simple recipe, you guys kind of like yesterday's, super easy. We're just going to I'm going to take off the ends of the beans that I missed, and we're going to just dump these on here. And we don't want these very cooked at all, because these are like super tender beans. I mean, you can just, I have been just eating them right out of the garden. So amazing. So just going to warm that up a little bit. I'm not going to do a whole lot with it. I'm going to have a little sip of my chakra tea to so that you're supposed to chew your food 27 times. You guys know that, right? Oh, that's funny. I don't think there's really, I haven't noticed anything with the volume on any of my things. Yeah, on mine too. When I replay, like I replay these to save them to the YouTube, and the volume seems to be fine, but that's why I turned off the dehydrator. So speaking of dehydrator, we did do the more of the beet greens, and these guys, I left them in overnight. So you do want to check them a bit, you know, because I can see a couple of them are a little too long, or too long. They're too long. They're too dry. So you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on that kind of thing. See, these ones look better. Could be also, depending on your dehydrator, sometimes there's an area that's closer to the heating element. But anyway, these are beet greens, and these are going to go into the soup, and they are so full of, well, they've got folic acid too, and all of the, you know, good for your eyes, good for, they're full of iron, they're good for your liver, good for digestion. So those are going to go into the you know, either the freezer bags or into the vacuum packer. And so, yeah, so that's with the beet greens. Okay, so these are getting a little bit tender, and it does look pretty. It does look pretty with the red and the green. I mean, the orange and the green. Oh, good. Glad you love the tea. I really do love it too. It's really, really awesome. Okay, so that's just the super simple recipe. We're just going to wait for this water to go down a bit, just for these beans to get a little bit more tender. So the idea is to keep the nutrition in it. And like I was saying, like if you do have a problem digesting, or if you have a problem chewing, you know, which is why I want to tenderize the carrots a little bit, is to just make it so that they've got a tender, crisp crunch to them. And then the beans, I just want them softened up a little bit, you know, to just have that tender, sort of a tender crisp crunch on the when you're eating the salad. Excuse me, I need more tea. Sometimes it just does that, and I don't know why, but anyway, I apologize. Okay, so we're going to stick these carrots and the beans into the bowl, and because these are just tender, and it's a really, really simple, super easy recipe. And because I didn't, sometimes when I'm cooking, I am talking so much, I put too much water in to make sure that I don't burn anything. And so this is just water. For the new people that came on, was just water and some organic carrots, and I didn't peel them, I just chopped them up, put them in there, so it's just water and green beans. And so what we're going to do is pull these out. Sometimes I forget to bring the right tools over here, and so so we're going to try and make do without getting a bunch of the water in here, and without me getting up and running around to get like the proper tools to get these guys out. Okay, there you go. Okay, so we can put this here, push this back a little bit. Okay, so yeah, so that looks really, really good. What we're gonna do is we're just really a tiny, tiny bit of maple syrup to this. Not very much, just the weeest bit. And I know, you know, it really does add a little pizzazz to your carrots. And of course it will the beans too, but like if you, these are beautiful garden fresh carrots, so they're already super sweet. But if you have, you know, your carrots that are wintered over, and they're not quite as sweet, just a teensy little bit of maple syrup makes all the difference in the world. So we're going to kind of sweet and spice these carrots and beans. So we're going to add just a little bit, tiny, tiny bit of cinnamon here. So we have a little cinnamon, not too much. I don't want them to taste too cinnamon. And the other thing, of course, you guys are so used to me doing this through all my stuff here, is the cayenne. So we've got sweet, spicy, and a little bit of heat. Okay, so a little bit of cayenne there too. I mix it around. I'm just going to back up from the bowl, otherwise I'll really be coughing, with the sprinkling of cayenne on here. And then, of course, you would add a little bit of salt, Celtic sea salt, and the Celtic sea salt is full of minerals, so it's not very salty. It's really full of trace minerals and really, really good for you, but it is not very salty, and so that's why it seems like I'm using a lot, but I'm really not. And then, excuse me, oh my gosh, it's one of those days. Okay, we're good. We're going to add just a tiny bit of olive oil. I would prefer actually to use the coconut oil on this, but if you don't have the liquid coconut oil, your coconut oil, if this cools down, it'll solidify a little bit, which is okay, you know, it's just not going to look as presentable. So, so I'm not going to use the regular coconut oil because I am going to let this cool, and it'll be served at room temperature, so it's kind of like semi-raw. So in this case, I am going to use a little bit of olive oil, and there we go. Just a little drizzle, just to give it shine, because when it looks good, when it tastes good and it looks good, it's like super awesome. Okay, and then a tiny bit of black pepper, and again, honestly, it's kind of more for looks than anything else. I mean, it tastes good too, but I've already got the cayenne in there, although they're completely different flavors. So a little bit of black pepper, and every time I think of black pepper, it makes me look for the turmeric, and so I'm going to do that. I'm going to do turmeric. It doesn't seem like it would go with this. But basically, all it's going to do is turn things yellow. and that's okay because we have orange and green here, so I don't think it's gonna mess with it too much as far as color. But the turmeric, anytime you can add it to a recipe, you want to be able to add it. And so the turmeric has the curcumin in it, so it's anti-inflammatory. It's really good for the immune system, anti-inflammatory. Oh my gosh, you guys know what golden milk is. We should actually do a golden milk one day just to show you the recipe, although it's well known. You guys have probably done it. And the turmeric has the curcumin, which is the anti-inflammatory, really good for the immune system. But the thing with the turmeric is that it does have a little bit of a bitter flavor. So when you're making the golden milk tea, generally most people will use either a honey or a non-dairy sweetener, like a almond creamer or something, and to sweeten it up, because it does have a bit of a bitter flavor. So when you're adding it to other recipes, just be aware that that it can get it mixed in there, right? Because if someone got like a bite with a little dusting, too much of a dusting of turmeric on it, then it'd be like, ooh, that's bitter. But as I have been telling you guys, bitter is better. So anything bitter, it helps your liver, helps your gallbladder, it helps your digestion. That's why they used to do bitters, have Swedish bitters or bitters before you ate. And the reason for that is to prepare the stomach for digestion, so that your stomach starts producing the enzymes and the acids to be able to break down the foods. And so, that's why in the old days, the salad greens were very bitter. They used to use, before they had our bland, I don't want to say really bland, but it is bland and mild lettuce. And so before we had all those lettuces that are very, sort of bland and pleasant tasting, they used dandelions, and they used they used all the weeds, and they used things like collards and things that, a darker green, sort of a stronger taste. And so, so the reason for doing that was that they knew that was really good for the liver. It detoxifies the liver and feeds the blood, of course, so because the liver has to do with everything. But the dandelion especially feeds the liver and the blood. And so the bitters help you digest your food. I kind of got carried away off on that into a different direction. But anyway, there will be a test later on what you remember. Okay, so there it is. Super easy, simple, green beans and carrot salad. Sweet, spicy, and I'm just trying to think between the cinnamon and the cayenne. Sweet and spicy and hot and interesting. Okay, so let's go on to the next thing here. Okay, now this is going to be interesting, and when I say that, you guys always know that I'm doing something that I'm not really either that I've never done before or that I'm not prepared for. But I don't care. We just do it anyway, because we're here to just explore and experiment and have fun learning things. So typically, okay, I'm going to tell you the recipe first, and then we're going to do it my way. Okay, so typically the recipe for the kombucha is 16 cups of water, okay, to typically it would be 10 tea bags, but in this case we are using loose tea, so it's going to be 10 teaspoons. So 16 cups of water, 10 teaspoons of black tea, and usually you would use a black tea. This is the traditional recipe, to 1 cup of sugar. Okay, so because I don't, I'm going to go back just to confuse you. 16 cups of water, 10 tea bags or 10 teaspoons of tea, and 1 cup of sugar. and you would stick that in a big pot and you would bring that to a boil or a simmer or whatever, and it's just to dissolve the sugar. Hi Maple, how are you doing? So what I found was that you cannot add that 16 cups of hot tea with sugar in it to your kombucha SCOBY and your starter until it's cooled, because you don't want heat on your SCOBY. You don't want heat on to hurt those bacteria. So you have to wait for 16 cups to cool, which takes forever. So my solution to that is, I'm going to show you here. What I do is I take 4, 8, 12. I take 12 cups of water, of cold water, and I leave it in this pot. And then I just mix a concentrated 10 teaspoons or 10 bags of tea with my 1 cup of sugar into just 4 cups, right? And so this is going to be hot enough to dissolve the sugar. And then you add it to the cold water, and then you can add your SCOBY right away. So what we're going to do here is just move this, and I have, oh, I boiled the water and I left it over there. That's okay. I'll just run and get it. And yeah, so it's just the easier, faster way to do it for me anyway, for what I think. And so, okay, so as simple as that. And you can do this, you can do it with the green tea, but in my experience, and I am not an expert at this at all. I just do it. I'm not, you know, I'm not, I do the regular kombucha. I'm not as experienced with things like making it really gingery. You know, I have made it and then put ginger in it and then bottle it up and then let it get its fizz and everything. And then there's things called June bugs and all that. I'm not, that's not something I'm familiar with, but I certainly am open to checking it out and doing it with you, and let's just see what happens, because that's what we do a lot around here. Okay, so we've got 1, 3, 4, whoops, they're getting a little big, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that should be close enough. And this is, it doesn't matter what kind of black tea you use. This happens to be an Emperor's Pure Tea, but you don't have to have anything fancy at all, just black tea. Now, the part with the sugar has always bothered me a lot, because it is a, I'm just going to put this in here and get it brewing. And this, obviously, you can see the steam coming out. This water's just been boiled. And, you know, typically the recipe is you would do this on the stove, but this works. I've done it. This part I've done lots. The rest of it, not so much. Okay, so we're just going to let that steep. And the part that always bothers me is putting white sugar in it. And it's just like, oh man, that's just so bad and so chemically. But the kombucha SCOBY eats the sugar and transforms it into being fermented. This is what we're after, is the fermentation, which has the healthy bacteria, right? So it has all the good intestinal bacteria. And so kombucha, everybody knows how good kombucha is because there's kombucha in every single store everywhere. And typically it's made this way because it really likes, for whatever reason, the black tea really likes the white sugar. And when it's fermented, there is no sugar left. It's eaten all the sugar and transmuted it, and apparently, so they say, although I had a hard time believing it, I'm still not sure if I totally believe it, that there's absolutely no sugar left. I have tried to do it with coconut sugar, and I know other people have too, and I think it just all depends on your SCOBY and how flexible your SCOBY is, and some people have done it with honey, but I find that it just doesn't turn out the same. So if anybody else has expertise on that, I'm totally interested in hearing. I wonder if I filled that too much. Here we go. Here we go, you guys. Okay, so, okay, of course. You're so used to me doing this. Oh, let's just try it this way. And then it doesn't work. Or it does. Okay, is that going to fit in there? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to pour a little into our pan of hot water. Can you see that? I don't think you can see that. Okay. Here's our pot of hot water. I mean cold water. That's the cold water. Okay, and so because I have really overfilled my 4-cup thing and can't quite get all the sugar into it, I'm going to get the little sieve, which I also forgot to do, so that we can add it to this. Just a little bit, because I want that sugar to be dissolved. Unless I think we can do it. Can we do it? Oh, we did it. Okay, we got all the sugar in. Awesome. Okay. Somebody in the universe is helping. Oh, I'm always afraid of what you can see. Because I just spread everything around, right? I got, oh, this might be handy, that might be handy. Okay, so that's awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to give this a little stir, and there's all kinds of controversy. Oh, look, I can even get the spoon in without going over the top. All kinds of controversy on not using metal utensils with this. And having said that, almost everybody I know makes it in a metal pot. So yeah, so you just do what you do. And I think it's pretty forgiving. In my experience, the kombucha has been very forgiving. And so you can see that this is turning quite dark. And I did fill it just a little too much. So I'm just doing this slowly. I should have actually used a bigger container to get my 4 cups in, plus a cup of sugar, which I wasn't really thinking. But this is working. And so my plan is as if you brought this to a boil and on the stove, and what you're just trying to do is brew the tea into a dark tea, which doesn't take very long, and then melt the sugar. And that's what you're trying to do. So we're going to leave that for just a second to set. Set that there carefully. And I'm going to show you, if you can still see my little tiny workspace here. I'm going to shove that over there without dumping everything. I put this here. First I'm going to put this here. So these are the scobies, and I have to say it's very embarrassing because these guys are in, they are, you put a paper towel on with an elastic or whatever. You can put a cloth, you can put a coffee filter if you want, but again, it's just like fermenting. You want to allow the air to come out and no bugs or dust or anything to go in. So that's why it's covered. And what happens, like seriously, this is months old. Well, yeah, I'd say since the start of this whole COVID thing, I'd say this is like since January. And that's the problem. When you put these things in the cupboard and you forget about them, they dry up. But you can see that there's still some liquid in here. And these are, I don't know how well you can see it. I've got 2 of them here. You might be able to see this one better. Anyway, these are the scobies. And so what they do is they eat the tea and they eat the sugar, and they create this beautiful fermented fluid, which is kombucha, which almost everybody's familiar with. And it all depends, again, like any fermentation, it depends on how warm your house is. And it can start to ferment in as little as 3 days if it's really warm. But typically it would be like more up to 2 weeks. And then it starts to get fizzy. And so again, you're going to be dipping in and tasting it and getting it to, you don't want it to taste like sweet tea anymore. Okay, so at least leave it minimum of 3 days before you even start tasting, and usually a week, because you don't want it to taste like sweet tea. You want the sugar to be completely gone, and it won't have the taste of tea. It'll taste like a fermented, almost gingery drink. And so when you leave it go longer, which you can obviously, it still has the good bacteria. Like it when it ferments and it eats the sugar, it develops that good bacteria that has you know, your probiotics and all that kind of thing. And then the longer you leave it, the more vinegary it will become, because it's fermenting into vinegar. And so it's perfectly fine. Like, this is perfectly fine to drink. However, if you're not used to probiotics, even like with a raw sauerkraut or whatever, if you're not used to it and you drink, you know, I wouldn't start with more than a shot glass. Let your system get used to it, because it's going to be like, wow, all these beneficial bacteria, and it'll be like an explosion of all these good bacteria running around and cleaning up. And if they clean up too fast, then you could end up with a little bit of, you know, going to the bathroom a lot. So you don't want to do more than, if you've never done it before, you don't want to do more than a little shot glass full to begin with, especially if it's fermented for a long time. You know, if it's in the first stages of fermenting, it's like just past being a sweet tea into a, you know, a little fizzy, then you can do a whole cup, you know. So, but again, go slow, see how your system is, because it all depends on how your system is operating and how sensitive you are. So when you make a kombucha, you need a piece of SCOBY, and any little piece, and you can actually cut it off with a knife. You can cut a chunk off with a knife, and the SCOBY starts to eat the tea and the sugar, and it will grow to the size of the jar. It will actually consume all liquid into the jar. So here's my other one covered with a cloth here, and this guy here, you can see, like, you can see the layers. So it will fill the jar, and actually I had a girlfriend see the nice layers, and so it grows in little flat pancakes or like tortilla scums, you know, but they're actually called, like we were talking about, Monique found the word for me, they're called calms in a fermented sauerkraut. And then like what we've got here, when we put the fir buds in the raw apple cider vinegar, it created its own little SCOBY on the top, which is also called a calm in fermentation. So anyway, that's what these are. And if you can see them, they have the layers, and so it will take the shape of the container it's in. And I have a good friend who has a really cool star-shaped glass thing, container, and it was star-shaped, and the SCOBY grew into little points. It was super cool. I have a picture of it somewhere. So anyways, okay, so what we're doing here is these guys, this one really needs to be fed. He needs new tea because he is like starving to death. This one here too, there's more liquid, so it's a little bit not in as dire straits, but they will just survive. Hardly ever, unless you let this hit the air for like a year, they don't mold because of the vinegar preserving it. But if it's in the air too long, it can shrivel up and mold. So it can also shrivel up and become, you know, kind of gooey. And so in those cases, what you want to do is you want to take that SCOBY out and just gently rinse it in water, running water, and just clean it up a bit, take the little bits off and put it back in. Having said that, if you don't do that and you just add the tea to this, you can do that and it'll be fine. It will just regrow and it will like clean itself. What I was going to say, okay, so you can take a little tiny piece of this and add it to this jar, and it will grow to that size. So so what I'm going to do is I am going to just add to this, because I'm just going to show you, and then this will be like 3 weeks. I'm going to leave it for 3 weeks, and then I can actually take each of those layers out and wash them off, although you don't have to, but you can if you want to. The other reason I want to do that is because in case some of you want a SCOBY, I have lots that I can give you, and you need a piece of SCOBY. Like I said, you know, just a little piece will grow into this whole thing. So you need a piece of SCOBY, and you need a cup of the starter of the old fluid, or old liquid, I should say. And so yeah, so that's why I'm just going to add to this, because I want this to be thick and I want to grow fast for people that may want some. So I'm just going to add to both these. But if you have your own and you are, you know, doing your own maintenance in a way, in a routine, then you might want to clean these up. But I'm not going to, because I need all of that friendly bacteria to grow a bunch for anybody that wants some. So I'm going to set this here. And just to get it out of the way, and then I'm going to get my sieve and add this, because we've let this steep, tripping over my tongue again, we've let this steep for a little bit, and you can feel, right, you could feel the sugar. If there was sugar, you feel it kind of gritty on the bottom, and this is pretty hot water, so it dissolved right away. So I'm just going to grab the sieve and add that to it, and hope that I have a big enough pot that I don't overflow that too. Oh my goodness. Okay, so hang on, I'll be right back. Okay, so you want something like this, and you can just hook it onto there. Just to get rid of the loose tea. So see, if you use the tea bags, then you don't have to worry about that. You just pull the tea bags out. But I don't use a lot of tea bags. I use a lot of loose tea. I know you guys are just watching, because we have so much fun with me making the mistakes. And I always like to say I make the mistakes so you don't have to, but that's not true. I just make the mistakes anyways. Okay, here we go. Let's see what happens. Oh, look at that. It fit. Awesome. Okay. We did not overfill the pot. That is an exactly 16-cup pot. I didn't know that. Now I do. Okay, so that's pretty much it. You can, you know, reuse the tea if you wanted to for whatever, or you can just compost it. And so that's fine. So now what we've done, I just want to get the little bits of tea off here. So what we can do now, because this is lukewarm, and I don't want to put my hands in it to test it, because I had touched the carrots and the beans earlier. So I'm going to run wash my hands first, and then or what I could do, actually, you know what I could do? I could just dribble this on here like a baby, like testing a baby bottle. Okay, so that is cool. So it's very cool on my hand. So what we're going to do is, okay, we're going to try and dump it in here, and then we will add the SCOBY. Okay, which means if we're going to do that, I do still have to wash my hands, because I don't want to touch the SCOBY either. You do want to make sure everything is super, super clean, and not to not contaminate the SCOBYs. Okay, so even though I washed my hands before I started this whole session with the carrots and the beans, you still just want to make sure that there is no cross-contamination from anything else that you've done with the kombucha. Okay, so now I'm going to touch the SCOBY. Well, no, I'm not going to do that. Well, you know what? I am and I'm not, and I am and I'm not. Okay, what I'm going to do, I want to add to this. It looks terrible, but I'm going to add to this, and I'm going to add to this, but I'm also going to show you how to do a piece. So I'm just wondering which one. I'm just going to add onto this, and then grab a piece of the other one. And this guy, he's so dehydrated, but he will make a good mother. That's what we call the mother when they, okay, yeah. All right, so this is the part you guys are going to love watching. See if I can do this. I'm going to have a mess on the floor. Whoop. Oh, I know. Good thing I washed the floor. Okay, so this is what you're going to do here is we're going to we're gonna leave that, give it a little bit of a, you know, so that the fluid can get in there. Can you see that? And go like that. Okay, so we're just mixing it around because we want the mother fluid at the bottom to come to the top. We don't want just fresh tea on the top. We want it really, really well mixed. And oh my gosh, I'm so funny. Okay, so this is going to make a really good concentrated mother, so that I could give a cup of the mother juice away with the SCOBY. And I'm probably not even going to attempt that in with this one. So I'm going to show you the other way. I probably soaked everything on the table quite enough. Okay, so again, very careful, everything clean. And I will be able to do this because it's a wider mouth. So look at that. Should have done that to begin with. Okay, so we have that in here. And this is what you would do. You would make your tea. You know, you can either do the full 16 cups with the 1 cup of sugar and 10 tea bags and wait for it to cool and add it to your SCOBY, or you can do it this way where I did it quicker. And then you're going to add, you can take a piece of one of these. It doesn't really matter, but what we're going to do is we're going to take this SCOBY here, and you can take a whichever one you want. It doesn't really matter. I'm searching for a smaller piece, but you look at this one, it's really, really thick. They come in layers. So what we'll do is we'll just grab this one, but you can you could cut a corner of that off. I'm just going to put this guy in here. And then what we need is a cup of that water. And that's why I didn't want to, that's why I want to add this to it, because you really need it concentrated. And typically you would use strictly the old SCOBY juice, but this was so concentrated that it will be fine with having the fresh added to it. So then you're going to add your 1 cup. I'm going to put it in the pot here just to see if it will be a little bit less, little less messy. There we go. Okay. So you can see how concentrated that is. And so we're adding our cup of old, I can't remember the actual name of it, but your old SCOBY juice. There is a name for it. Okay, so that's the starter. I guess that would be a name for it. That's the starter, and then you're just going to allow that to go into the SCOBY and mix in, and yeah, so just put same thing that I did here. You can do, it says that there's something wrong with the Facebook again. You can cover this with a clean cloth and put an elastic around it, leave it, and it'll be, you know, like I said, depends on how warm it is. Probably I wouldn't even try it for, you know, minimum of 3 to 5 days, because it's just going to taste exactly like it is now. It's going to taste like sweet tea. But after a week, it should start to ferment, to get a little bit fuzzy, a little bit less sweet, and then it'll get to the perfection. When it gets to the perfection of that you are enjoying it as a fizzy drink that doesn't really taste like tea, but before it turns into vinegar, that is when you take some out and you can add your ginger. You add a piece of ginger, or you could use ginger powder, and you can put it in one of the bottles. And if you leave it out, it will ferment more and become fizzier with the ginger in it. And then that'll give you the ginger flavored kombucha. And then when it gets to that perfection of that flavor before it turns to vinegar, you want to put it in the fridge. So the fridge will stop the fermentation so that it doesn't become more vinegary. So yeah, so that's basically how I've done it. Like I say, I'm not an expert, obviously, but this is how I've done it. And then what we can do is we can explore the different types of stages with adding vinegar. Some people will add fruit. You could add raspberries, you could add blueberries, You can flavor it however you want once it reaches that stage. And then it's called second ferment, which is not something that I have done a lot. Haven't done that in a really long time, but we can certainly experiment and play with it. So anyway, I've kept you guys here way, way too long. We are so over. And thank you for your patience with me, and thank you for hanging out, and happy Friday. You guys have a really good weekend. And yeah, so try making a little salad, a little kombucha. If you guys want a SCOBY or a starter, get a hold of me and I will give you some, and we can all experiment with it together. Okay, awesome. So share this. I don't know if you want to share this one. But anyways, check out my Instagram, my YouTube channel, and you know, it's good for a laugh. Okay, we'll see you guys Monday. Thanks for coming, hanging out.